When I was 13 years old, this was a huge day in my life. We lived up on a hill in Richland Center, and to get to school and to get most any place downtown, we had to walk across a footbridge. And on my 13th birthday, my mom told me that I was old enough to visit her Mary Kay representative, or excuse me, it was Avon. And we got to visit our Avon representative, and I could get my first, what I thought was makeup. So this was a huge day for me. My mom and I walked over the footbridge, and we went to the Avon person's house, and I picked out some perfume and cream perfume, and I got a little bit of blush for my face. So it was a huge day for me. When I lived at home as a child, I never had to do chores. I never had to help cook. I never had to do anything except make up my bed and put my clothes away. My mom always felt that she wanted us to have fun and play and to be involved in things. So she just didn't want us working in the house very much. When I was little, I did get sick a couple times, but they were diseases that children really don't get now. But I had chicken pox, and I had measles, and I had mumps. And the worst one, as I can remember, was chicken pox, because you had a rash all over your body, and it itched like crazy. And we'd have to get in the bathtub so it stopped itching, or we had to put on a cream that made it stop itching. And I remember we had to lay in our beds, especially during the day, and we'd close all the curtains because evidently the sun made it worse. So that was a hard disease. Also, as I got a little bit older, polio was a disease that was very contagious and scared so many people. People all around us, children and adults, were getting polio. My mom was very scared, and she kept us safe by having us wash our hands and staying at home more, not going to public places. But when I was, I believe, in 3rd grade, an oral vaccine was developed. This was just an outstanding time because they finally found a vaccine for polio, and they stated that every child in the 3rd grade would be the children that would receive this very first vaccine. So I remember going to the elementary school, and we all had to line up. We didn't really know if we'd have any side effects, but it was a very important vaccine, so I was one of the first children to receive that oral vaccine. My doctor, when I got sick, I can remember him so well. His name was Dr. Meyer, and he was so nice. Back then, if we got sick, my mom would just call Dr. Meyer, and he would stop by the house, and he would check our temperature and check us over and give us medicine. So he would come to our house and take care of us many times if we were sick and couldn't come to the doctor's office. When we did go to the doctor's office, I remember in Richland Center, I can remember the office so well, and I can remember Dr. Meyer being so kind. But I do remember one thing that my mom and Dr. Meyer always teased me about. I was in kindergarten, I think, and Dr. Meyer had a son named Mike, and I really liked Mike. And they would tease me about that all the time, and I can still remember that, how they would tease me about Mike Meyer. We didn't do a lot of traveling because we had such a big family, but I do remember going to Sparta, Wisconsin to visit Ganny. That was my dad's mom. And she had married Walter Verity, and they lived out in the country on a place called The Point. And it was near a big lake, and it was in the woods, and it was really fun to go there. I can remember they had an old car, and Al and I and Mary got in that car and tried to drive on one of the old roads. There wasn't much trouble you could get into, really, but we sure, messed around out there. And then we'd visit Grandma and Grandpa Johnson, too, once in a while. They lived in town. That was my mom's mom and dad. So those were our trips, and we traveled on 2-lane roads, kind of country roads. We didn't have interstates back then, but we would travel on those country roads, and I'd see all these big farms, and I always wished I'd just look out the window and wish that someday I could live on a farm and have all the animals that I wanted. So those were kind of fun trips. So traveling when I was little was basically to visit relatives, but when I was in high school, one day my dad came home out of nowhere. I'm sure he talked to my mom first, but he announces to us that we're going to California. And we were all like, when? And he said, tomorrow morning. And we were so excited we were going to go out and see my brother Mike and meet his fiance. So my mom, again, big family, crowded in a car. She cooked a roast, made sandwiches that we could eat along the way, and we all crowded into an old car, no air conditioning. I guess it was a pretty new car then. And my dad, my brother Uli, got the front seats. Then my mom, myself, my sister Mary got the back seats. My sister Kathy slept in the back window, and my brother Mark usually laid down on the car floor in the back seat. So we traveled from Reedsburg, Wisconsin to California that way. But it was a fantastic trip. We used to buy ice when we went through the desert and throw it down our shirts, and it was just fun. Very crowded, but fun. When I got older, I did travel more. I was able to travel around the United States, and I also went to Mexico 3 times, and I was fortunate enough to visit Ecuador in South America and Argentina in South America. When I was little, going back to when I was little, holidays were pretty important, but the major ones were, of course, Christmas and Easter. And on both those holidays, we went to church. I was raised as a Catholic. We went to church actually every Sunday. But on these holidays, it was special. We would get brand new outfits. We would get new bonnets. We wore white gloves. We'd have new dresses. And our whole family was dressed up. Mary and I especially liked the new white gloves and the fancy dresses and the new hat. And we would go to church, and on Christmas, of course, we'd go to church, and we could always look forward to then a big dinner and opening our presents. And I remember my mom and dad had this little manger, and I would sit there and just play with all those figures. They would all move, and I would play with those all the time, with baby Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the wise men and the shepherds and the sheep, and I'd move those all around for hours. Now Easter was the weather. It seemed like to me it was always nice. I'm sure it wasn't, but we would again get all dressed up. That was especially a dressed up event. And we would go to church, and then we'd come home and get our Easter baskets and have an Easter egg hunt out in the yard. So those are the 2 holidays that I really remember.